can speak to. I found a dream that I can speak to. I found a dream that I can speak to. I found a dream that
Hello, everybody, and welcome to what I believe we can say is the first official episode of Bebop Banter, the internet's premier anime podcast. My name is on the blog W, but I'll be using my real name here, Wes. I will be one of your hosts, and I'm pleased to say I'm not alone. I'm joined by D.
Hi, everyone. My name is Demetrius, but you may know me as D. So I am pleased to introduce myself, and I can't wait to kick this off.
Hey guys, I'm Saeed. If you're familiar with the One Piece content with us, that's all me. So yeah, excited about this.
It's really exciting. I've done the anime reviews for a while. Demetrius hit some of the anime reviews, as well as the amazing series about unwritten anime rules. And Saeed, like you said, has been doing One Piece. But we will be moving to this new audio venue. And because of this audio venue, we will be able to hit a lot more topics that maybe we didn't want to write about, or maybe just kind of come off the cuff as we think about it. We do have a plan for today, though, and that plan, very near and dear to all three of our hearts, is to discuss the Toonami generation.
So Toonami is one of the best gateways into anime that has ever existed on the Western Hemisphere. And it's really something that got each of us into anime. And none of us can even forget how it introduced Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, some of the heavyweights in anime into our lives. But one of the cool things I'm going to start to get into is some of the facts. So some of the facts behind Toonami, just a couple to name, is it's actually a blend between two different words. It's a blend between tsunami from Japan and cartoon. So that's how they came up with Toonami in the way that it is. And it started up in 1997. And that's when you started to get like more exposure to the bigger show titles. Dragon Ball Z's original dub was first aired. A couple other things were shown on daytime television. Eventually it moved to Saturday nights at 9 o'clock. You guys remember that, right?
Yo, it made it hard. It made it hard.
Mm-hmm.
And you just remember, I personally remember waiting every week until Saturday at 9 o'clock until I could see the next new episode of whatever was hot at the time, especially some of the big ones like
Dude, and
Dragon Ball Z,
on that real
Naruto.
quick, before we continue with the facts, what was everyone's favorite Toonami show here? Does everyone have a favorite that kind of hooked you onto it?
Ooh.
Mine actually depends based on the era, I guess. Because there was a point, before Naruto started, my favorite was probably Dragon Ball Z on Toonami. But once Naruto came on, that really like pushed me even more into anime.
True. I would say I would actually agree with Saeed because I was heavily into Dragon Ball Z and I saw a couple other shows. I will admit I wasn't really like a big fan of Zatch Bell or whatever it was. But Naruto was really one of the bigger ones that I got into by accident. That's a completely different story.
For me, I'd have to actually say like Dragon Ball Z was the big one, but Rurouni Kenshin on Toonami.
Oh my god!
And Rurouni Kenshin and G Gundam were like the big heavy hitters for me as a kid because it's so different than everything else that was kind of on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or Disney at the time.
Yeah, I'd actually watch all that stuff too, but like whenever Dragon Ball Z came on, I felt like I remembered that the most because I was most like eye-catching to me, I guess. Like, I know I'd watch it as a kid, like Rurouni Kenshin, Yu Yu Hakusho, and all that whenever it was on Toonami. But it wasn't until I got older and then rewatched it where I actually grasped what the show was about.
Definitely like figuring out, because if you missed a day or two, you had like, and sometimes, I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I feel like they didn't show the stories in 100% order or that type of thing. So anyway, just an aside I wanted to get out there.
Yeah, I would definitely say that Yu Hakusho and Rurouni Kenshin were other huge titles that really got people in there. So Toonami was doing its Cartoon Network block, like I said, from 1997 to about 2008 from the show notes that I read. And what's interesting about it is how how themed it was. Like, yes, there were cartoon blocks. Yeah, we had WB, we had 4Kids. We're not going to talk about 4Kids.
4Kids.
Toonami.
that One Piece rap.
4Kids gotta go.
4Kids. Oh my gosh.
Yo, tune in next time for the 4Kids podcast.
But Toonami, what it did was so different in terms of providing a venue for these Japanese cartoons, which we all know as anime, but it also was space themed. It had a host. If you guys all remember Tom, Tom was the man. It stood. And I was reading, and that stands for Toonami Operating Module. They were really into this like machine space theme, and it turned out really well. Everybody, if you've seen Toonami, you remember Tom. You remember those cartoon breaks where they would show like a trailer for an upcoming show, and it had like this heavy hitting weird soundtrack, but you would remember everything about it.
Yeah, and those little random game reviews they would do.
And it just had this really it had this really hangout feel, like come down, sit with us, we're gonna watch some cartoons, and it just ended up being really, like a home away from home or home within your home.
Yeah, you look forward to, like, if you're watching TV and you see the spaceship come on, you're like, oh, it's Toonami time, stuff like that.
It's Toonami time, bro.
I got a question, actually. When you guys first saw Toonami, did you know it was anime, or did you guys just think it was cartoons? Because I just thought it was cartoons. I didn't know what anime was when I first was watching Toonami.
All right, so I'll go first on this one because I lived in Japan from kindergarten through second grade. So before I even had exposure to Toonami in the States, I had exposure to anime in Japan. So I kind of knew a little bit from that, but I also knew a little bit because my cousin, who's my best friend in the entire world, huge influence in me actually getting into anime. He's 9 years older. So I remember growing up, I know we can't really speak to the old days of having to tape swap with people that you meet on AIM to try to get the latest copy. But I remember when Toonami, when it was a thing, it was a big deal for him. And that's kind of how, like, the Dragon Ball Z's, the Rurouni Kenshins, that I got into it, was he would be like, yo, there's this block of anime that's going on that I don't have to actually go over the internet to find people to get me the latest episodes or whatever. So at least for me, just because of unique family circumstances, I knew it was anime.
In my take, just me doing my normal thing and being a kid watching Nickelodeon and stuff, at first I didn't know that it was anime. I did know that it was different just because it looked 10 times more serious. The story actually progressed, like it wasn't episodic. And cartoon characters weren't drawn with 3 fingers, but I didn't know it was anime. I just knew that I enjoyed it. I just liked the whole dynamic of what it felt like.
We broke away from like the episodic feel, I guess, Western cartoons had.
I'd say they still have that feel too, to a large extent. It'd be interesting now. True. I mean, I know we'll get into kind of the effects of Toonami later, but it would be interesting now with how anime is perceived by a lot of people. To see if Toonami was still on that main block, what type of numbers they would see, like, because now people I feel like it wasn't as exposed before, so maybe a lot of people tuned in and they were like, oh, this is just another cartoon, and they watched that not knowing it was anime. But now you attach the label to it that it's anime, and maybe the negative connotations that being an anime fan comes with, and you don't get the people watching it. But
be loud and proud, people. But at the same time, that'll be another topic that we cover. But one of the cool things about Toonami is that it just really gave everybody that exposure, especially if you were just a kid checking out a couple things. And then it went away for a while. And the world just was crazy. The world was the worst place. Madness.
Yeah. We needed Tom most. He vanished.
Then we had the housing market crash and all that other crazy stuff. So... Yeah, we needed him back, and he's gone.
Oh, side note, you know how at one point they redesigned Tom?
Yeah, I was not a fan of that. To a classic. If I'm not mistaken, I haven't watched that much of Toonami now. He's more back to that classic.
Yeah, he is. I was going to say Toonami's on tonight
just
too.
A little fourth wall break for those people watching. But I think that goes on to that note that Toonami is on right now at the time we're recording this. Is a good segue into maybe something that we wanted to really focus on for this podcast, which is the fact that Toonami isn't as in the public eye as it used to be. It is currently, at least looking at my computer, it is 9:02 p.m. on a Saturday, whereas I remember coming home from school in elementary school, being able to turn the TV right on in the afternoon and have OG Dragon Ball followed up by Dragon Ball Z, followed up by Rurouni Kenshin, followed up by maybe a Sailor Moon in there that I skipped because I was like, oh, I don't want to see magical girls, followed up by a Gundam series that would be like, okay, fighting robots, I'm about it. Issue that is kind of at the heart of at least the way I view Toonami now. And Saeed, you want to hit what you were saying earlier about maybe why?
Yeah, I feel like it's not as in the public eye, or it doesn't even have to be in the public eye as much anymore because of how the streaming content online is now with anime. There's so many platforms and options people have now. You don't really need a Toonami to push it. I feel like culturally, at least, the connotation behind anime is becoming like a more cooler thing to get into, as of recent times, at least.
That's true. It's like it's built its own subculture. From that, you get a lot of people that are just interested because you have this group of people that are really interested in a topic, and that kind of brings, I don't know, interest to it.
Actually, I'd give credit to Toonami. I think it's because of Toonami it became more broadened because of what Wes was saying before. How kids would just come and just watch it. They grow up not knowing what anime was, and maybe now that they look back, like, oh, I used to watch this stuff when I was a kid. Let me try again and to get into it for like a second rebirth of like their love for anime or something like that.
Like you were saying, there's just an abundance of streaming sites where, at least as an anime fan now, like looking at the time that Toonami is on Saturday nights, I feel like it's aimed more towards the older audience that can stay up that late.
Yes.
But at the same time, and this is a thought that I was having, at the same time, there's so many different anime streaming sites. Time to shout out people that aren't sponsoring us, but who knows, maybe one day. Crunchyroll, High Dive, Verve, Funimation Now, Hulu has some, Amazon Prime has some great series, Netflix, yeah, like there's so many series that also carry them in subbed version instead of the English dub that Toonami puts out with full openings, because I don't know if you guys knew this, but Toonami cuts openings.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
They shorten openings a lot. They had JoJo's Bizarre Adventure on. I think Part 4 is still on.
The only piece that I can say on the openings is that I can tell you for a fact that I know they played all of Naruto opening 5 because I watched it every time it came on.
Don't skip your openings, please. We'll talk about this in another podcast, but oh man, I'm not a fan of skipping openings or endings. Endings maybe, but it depends.
I'll be honest with you guys. If you don't like the opening and you've given it a couple of chances, okay, skip it. But don't just skip it because you're afraid to hear some lyrics that are in a different language, or you're afraid to see something from the story, because most of that stuff is layered that you won't be able to predict it anyway.
I got a question. Do you guys listen to the openings every single time you watch the episode?
Then yes, I do.
Okay, because when I'm binging a series, I don't
now,
like watching the openings. I will say
on my second watch through of a show, I will watch the opening, like when I watch through Steins Gate, I will watch the opening on the first episode and the ending on the first episode, and I will skip the openings.
Yeah,
I'll skip the
do that for sure.
And the endings until the very last episode that I know has the opening and endings.
Okay, yeah, that's basically what I do too. I give it a listen for sure, the opening and the ending, a couple of times, but when I get in the role of it, or if I'm binging a series, I feel like I can cut that stuff out, catch up faster.
And the whole cutting out openings and endings is just another interesting thing, because even though, bringing it back to Toonami, even though they shorten the opening and ending, the streaming services really, a lot of them have English dubs too.
And I mean, licensing is becoming a bigger thing for anime, especially when you look at the huge power that Netflix is getting over anime. Yeah. Its title of Devil
I think they just got Hunter x Hunter back. I think it went away for a little bit and it came back.
There's other ways to watch anime now outside of Toonami, which is sad to think about, but it's really actually sad, because if we go off kind of what I believe is our general viewpoint here, that Toonami is partially, if not in the majority, responsible for spreading anime here in America. It's sad that when the spread finally happens and you start seeing it becoming on the upswing, becoming more popular,
we're seeing the fruits of that labor of that like the early time slot. It's the fruits are
Yes.
bearing now because that age group is watching it. But the generation, like when we were kids, these kids nowadays,
which it's sad,
don't
like I
have
was
that.
saying, because you think it did so much to work up and build up anime culture and normalizing it almost. I don't want to say normalizing it, but getting it out there. And then now that anime is, I would argue, as big as it's ever been in the West, Toonami is kind of just relegated to the side. Like it's almost in its retirement phase. Like it still has really good shows. I think the last time I checked the lineup, it had like Boruto, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I think they're still working through Hunter x Hunter.
Their lineup is actually pretty solid.
It's a really solid lineup, but it's kind of relegated to the side because of the availability of it now.
Yeah, and that just kind of like building off of what Saeed said over the fruits of its labor. Toonami did a really good job of bringing it to this side, but at the same time, a whole bunch of other people like picked up the ball and started running with it, which is on its own really a good thing because it is more popular. But it is sad to see, like, it kind of just makes you wonder for the next generation of anime fans, like, how do they get it? Are they getting it through
maybe to
Netflix or Hulu,
worst case scenario,
Crunchyroll?
You have all these people that grew up on Funimation that are now subscribing to these services and watching anime through there. You don't have, like you were saying, that equivalent for the younger generation that maybe doesn't have access to or isn't able to pay for, even though there's a free version, of course, but doesn't have access to these streaming services. So maybe there's just a reverse swing where
there'll be a dip.
Yeah, where there's a dip and anime isn't as accessible anymore to the younger generations. So what I'm saying here is it's up to us older generation to educate the youth of today.
To pass our will on to the next generation.
Yo.
The will of fire.
Yeah, the will of D,
dude.
The will of D.
Speaking of endings, we just talked about endings. Just random thought. One Piece needs to make endings again.
Do they not?
They've stopped for
I
a
haven't
while.
watched the One Piece anime in a while.
It's been a long time. The anime hasn't had an ending in a long, long time.
You know, honestly, I'm gonna say something. It might be unpopular, but if they're gonna have an opening and a recap and also a preview, it kind of makes sense that they would. I mean, they're already taking out like 7 minutes of every episode.
I understand
One Piece
why
openings too are long. I don't know if anyone listening has watched One Piece, but like I'd say that average anime opening is maybe a minute to a minute 20, and One Piece openings can go for like 2 minutes.
Minute 30 seconds. I'm pretty sure it's like always 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Those One Piece openings, at least the last time I watched it, they feel long, and then you have the recap, like you were saying. Like, I guess they got to cut it somewhere to at least get some of the newer stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. He's gonna be the Pirate King.
Like last time on One Piece,
episode,
flashes back all the way to the first episode, works through every single arc.
Here we have Luffy in a barrel. Sorry, we're railing One Piece. It's a great show. You should watch it.
100%. Don't do that. I would say actually, here's maybe. I know it's not an unpopular opinion amongst us three. Maybe an unpopular opinion. Maybe a nice hot take right here. Only watch the anime up to the time skip.
Ooh, hot take.
And then stop watching it and read the manga instead.
Yeah.
Or just read the manga. Or read Saeed's manga reviews if you're caught up.
Yeah. Binging it for sure helps. Binging it helps for sure.
He can talk all about binging One Piece.
Yeah.
Back when it had how many episodes? Like 500?
I caught up in a month. It was at Punk Hazard when I caught up. Wait, was it at Punk Hazard? It was just about to get into Punk Hazard when I caught up. 2012, I think.
But as you can tell, we're all huge anime fans here, and ultimate agreement is because that was Funimation. Or not Funimation. Funimation did part of it. It was Toonami. But you have things like Funimation and things like Crunchyroll and things like Hulu and High Dive. I haven't looked into them, but they tried to get me to sign up for a free trial at Otakon. You have things like that carrying on Toonami's torch. And I think it's important to always remember where the anime fandom kind of started and to support 100% your official releases. Be it through buying Blu-rays, be it through watching it on legit subscription services like Crunchyroll, Hulu, Funimation, everything that I've hammered down here, because that just shows how interested we're in.
I think the only last thing that I want to say about Toonami is one of the things that I don't see in modern production dubs right now is how Toonami seemed to bring like this different flavor to how they did their voice acting. Because right now I feel like English dubs are really cookie cutter. Like I can hear Chris Sabat in every single Funimation dub or Vic Magnolia. Like I can hear them. I know their voices now because they're in so many different shows. But when you go back to all that stuff, and granted, I was a kid, maybe I just wasn't using my ears as much, but it felt like they had so much more to their voice acting practice because Rurouni Kenshin, Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, again, another opinion. I think Yu Yu Hakusho has one of the best English dubs that ever exists out there.
Yep.
If you look at when it was produced, way back when, you had a lot of these voice actors just kind of in their prime doing their different things. And I just worry that we're not getting that same value out of our English dubs because they're so cookie cutter. There's so many different things they have to put out. There's so many different interests. And I think Toonami did a really good job back in its heyday.
Funny because I don't watch English dubs. Spoiler alert. I only watch subs because that's the master race going on.
Oh my God.
But I have a group of friends that will exclusively watch English dubs, and they will always ask me, what anime can you recommend? Of course, I'm not going to recommend the current season or the current core of anime because a lot of them don't get English dubs. But I look back and I have a list of the greats for English dubs, and a lot of them are coming off of that early Toonami lineup, like the Dragon Ball Zs, like the Rurouni Kenshins, like the Yu Yu Hakushos, the G Gundams, the Sailor, the English Sailor, Code Geass, the English Sailor Moon, I guess the English Naruto dub.
Well, I liked it.
It's not bad. It's not bad. A lot of the things I recommend, Cowboy Bebop. A lot of the English dubs that I have to recommend to people that only watch English dubs are those older Funimation, or not Funimation, the older Toonami ones. Like there's so much more character in them. I feel like voice actors now have kind of found the voice that they like to tie to certain characters, and they're afraid to experiment to go beyond it. Or companies maybe just are like, hey, people like the way Vegeta and Piccolo sound. Why don't you work that into the way that All Might sounds? Type of deal. We don't know. We're not industry insiders.
Yeah.
But Saeed, anything to wrap up on Toonami?
Support Toonami.
Yep.
Continue watching Toonami. That's basically it, I guess. Do your part and subscribe to PewDiePie.
Do we have the count? Do we have the count on it right now as of this moment? As of 3/9/2019 at 9:17 p.m.
I don't know. He's still on top. That's all I know, but not by much.
But,
I'm part Indian too, by the way. So yeah, subscribe to PewDiePie.
Against T-Series. But all right, folks, that was our talk on Toonami. Before we had Demetrius and Saeed's final thoughts, what I was starting to say and what I'm going to wrap up saying here, and Saeed touched on it in his final thought right there. Really do your best to support the official releases. Subscribe if you love anime to the Crunchyrolls and the Funimation Nows and the Netflixes and the Hulus and the High Dives, or the Shonen Jumps that's now 100% online. Rest in peace to the physical publications that I used to love to get.
And don't be afraid, because I will be happy to say that I have really good friends, and Wes has let me use his Crunchyroll. So don't be afraid to buddy up and use the buddy system to actually
do what you got to do.
Release.
I know there are going to be situations where it's really hard to not do that. And since this is episode 1, like I was kind of starting to say earlier, we're to kind of throw a roadmap out there. There are going to be things we talk about where, yes, we had to read something that is fan translated on the internet that isn't an official release that we would have bought if it was officially released, but we just didn't have the opportunity because it's not officially released or licensed by any company. Or yes, we're going to talk about seeing an anime on an illegal streaming site. We might even talk about what it was like watching anime on these streaming sites before the legit streaming sites started.
Or you could talk about the YouTube AMVs.
Oh my god.
You just had to decipher through all the evanescence.
Oh man. Where anime would be like, you'd watch a 10-minute segment and it'd be like part 1 of 3, but then you'd see a part 2 of 3, but it was from a different uploader, so it would be like slightly off, and maybe you missed a minute, or maybe you have to rewatch a couple minutes. Oh man.
YouTube in 2006 was wild.
But we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff down the line that isn't necessarily based off of us buying a manga or us paying for a service to see a certain thing just because it wasn't available. We always 100% support subscribing to those services, doing the best that you can to see something legit. Like the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, I know leaked online weeks before it was in America, but we came out in force and we made it for whatever week it came out, the number one movie in theaters. We got it to one of the highest ranked or highest grossing anime movies out there, if not the. Support legit releases. Do what you can do. Toonami, it paved the path for us, man. It really did. Keep that torch alive. Remember Tom. What would Tom think? So with that, I think that wraps up this first episode. We're looking forward to many a weeks ahead. You can always visit our website at backlogbebop.wixsite.com/backlogbebop. At the beginning of the podcast, we mentioned we have anime reviews, spoiler-free and spoiler-filled, done by myself. We have a whole collection of unwritten anime rules done by Demetrius. Saeed hits those One Piece reviews and those One Piece theories. Ooh, real hard every Friday.
Yes.
On top of that, we have an Instagram page. Just search Backlog Bebop on Instagram. We would love a follow where we post not only what we're going to put out for the week, we do like some merchandise highlights. Whenever we go to conventions, we're always live blogging from these conventions in our stories. We'd love for you to stop by, check that out. Not as active on Twitter, but we have one. Again, everything is Backlog Bebop. Feel free to comment on any of our pictures. We love discussions, or hit us with an email, backlogbebop@gmail.com. Looking forward to doing a lot more of these. And Saeed, you want to hit them with that outro?
To be continued.
Peace.